Good afternoon, everyone, and thank you for joining us in our HCD presentation for operating budget trainings. This is a continuation of our conference. If you have any technical issues, I ask that you please chat in with me directly. You'll find me in your participant window under AMA NCH info at AMA NCH. If you have any questions for our speaker, we ask that you chat them in at any time. If you also would like to unmute yourself and ask a question, we ask that you wait during these portions where they have moments to ask said questions. I do have a handout and I will make sure to drop that in the chat, so please keep an eye out for that. And at this time, I'm going to go ahead and pass this along to our speaker, Stephen Marshall with HCD.
Thank you, Gabriella, and good afternoon, everyone. I'm Stephen Marshall. I'm the Asset Management and Compliance Fiscal Section Chief, and I have with me today a number of people from AMC Fiscal Section. Sergio Garcia, Mary Rice, and Jessica Doan will be presenting, and along with us we have Liz Johnson, one of the managers, and Tatiana Ivko, our specialist, and we believe we'll have a few others in the background as well. Today's webinar is, as part of the AMA annual conference, is to give a training on the operating budget form that AMC uses for affordable housing for HCD funded projects. We appreciate your attendance, and we look forward to working with you. So we're going to get started here, and we will start with just a quick overview of what is going to be covered today in our meeting. So we will have a little bit of information on the due dates of our projects, the communications that you'll be receiving both before and after the due dates, hopefully just the ones before, and then how to access the form on the HCD website. And then we're going to go sort of section by section of the budget. It's an Excel workbook with a number of tabs. So we'll have presentation on each of the tabs, how to fill it in, what it's used for, what some of the do's and don'ts are on each of the line items that we typically find some common mistakes, common errors, things like that. So let's get right into it with the fiscal year due dates. Most of the projects in the HCD portfolio, and there's about 1,200 projects nowadays. So most of them, probably 3/4 or even a touch more, have a fiscal year that is the same as the calendar year, January 1 to December 31. And your due date is 60 days prior to the beginning of the fiscal year. So that's November 1. So that's coming up soon, and hopefully this information today will help you and the project owners prepare and submit your budgets on time and with accurate and complete information. If you have any of the different fiscal years noted, you'll see the different due dates noted on the table here on the slide that's up. And as it notes in the very bottom, when you submit your proposed operating budget, you should also be submitting your schedule of rental income form. The operating budget goes to the AMC Fiscal section, and your schedule of rental income goes to the AMC Occupancy section. The two teams work collaboratively when they are receiving the reports and the documents and approving them, but sometimes there's a timing issue where one will happen before the other just because of the workload of the staff at the time, and we'll discuss that a little bit as well through the course of this presentation. The communications that you will receive, a 30-day advanced notice, and those should be coming out soon so that you're aware that the deadline is coming up. We have instituted a much more rigorous negative points policy, and we really don't want to issue negative points to any of our applicants who are coming to HCD for funding. So we give you an advance notice. on the budgets. We also do that on the audits at the end of the fiscal year. You will receive those coming up soon. The reports we hope you do not receive are going to be the delinquent reports that might be coming due if you do not submit in a timely manner. So keep those in mind. We try to copy all of the relevant contacts for each project, which would be the sponsor as well as the property manager, asset manager at the borrower or sponsor organization. So those are some of the first pieces of information just about the process of the annual operating budget. And now I'm going to turn this over to Jessica Doan to continue with our presentation on the operating budget form. Here you go.
Thank you, Steve. Good afternoon. I'm Jessica Doan, an AMC Fiscal Rep. As Steve previously mentioned, annual proposed budgets are due 60 days prior to fiscal year end. In preparing to complete both the scheduled rental income and the proposed operating budget, it is recommended that the latest version of these forms be used. The best way to ensure the latest version is going directly onto HCD website at www.hcd.ca.gov. From there, you'll select grants and funding, and then reporting and compliance loan programs. Next slide. Once you're on the AMC page, click on item 1, which is the annual operating budget, and item 2 is for the scheduled rental income. Submit the SRI, scheduled rental income report, before or at the same time as the budget. Next slide. Once the budget is downloaded, make sure you click on Enable Editing button on the top right-hand corner to unlock the form. The form must also be unblocked in the Priorities menu and saved on your computer. The budget workbook is now ready to be used. Please note the date in the upper right-hand corner of the workbook. The latest budget version is from September 16, 2022. At the bottom of the workbook are various tabs of AMC forms, color-coded in either yellow or green. The project is to complete the yellow tabs. HCD will complete the green tabs. The first tab in the workbook is a detailed narrative with instructions to all the tabs in the Excel workbook. Next slide, please. Tab 2 of the workbook, AMC 170 Checklist and Certification, is where the project will begin entering information about the project. The project is to complete the yellow shaded areas. For HCD to consider a completed budget submittal, the project must complete the SRI, AMC 170, AMC 171, and AMC 172. Please note the checklist of the required forms. Remember to sign and date the certification. Information filled in the yellow shaded areas will auto-populate onto the remaining AMC forms throughout the Excel workbook. Next slide. Tab 3 of the workbook, AMC 171, Proposed Cost of Operations. This is where the project will enter their proposed expenses in column A and column E. If there is no commercial expenses, then there is no need to complete column E. Proposed expenses filled in AMC 171 will auto-populate in AMC forms 173 through 175. Any costs anticipated to be capitalized should not be included in this form. During the review, HCD Fiscal Rep will review the proposed expenses, compare the expenses against last year's approved budget and actual expenses from the latest approved audit. Expenses increased by 10% or more from the previous year will need to be clarified. Outlined in red are some common mistakes we have encountered. Fees label, management consultants, these fees require further clarifications. Excessive management fee above HUD's current allowable fee of $81 per unit per month. Other management fees, sometimes called compliance fee, monitoring fee, oversight fee, should be combined with the management fee. And again, be mindful of the $81 maximum per unit per month. Administrative rent per unit is expense on the budget. However, this revenue is not shown on the SRI. Bookkeeping fee above the allowable $13 per unit per month. Miscellaneous administrative expenses were not itemized. Any miscellaneous administrative expense over $1,500 or more must be itemized in detail below. Next slide, please. Slide 10 is a continuation of common mistakes. As you can tell in my example, I have snow removal. Snow removal in a project in Napa. That was included as an example to demonstrate that fiscal reps do carefully review their budgets. If real estate taxes are higher compared to previous year, the rep will inquire as to why. A question asked may be, did the project not receive the welfare exemption this year? Any miscellaneous expenses relating to taxes and insurance should be itemized below, and the amounts will auto-populate. If there's an on-site service coordinator expense, the first thing the fiscal rep is going to do is going to check to see if an approved mini plan is on file. Sergio Garcia will go into further details about supportive services during his presentation. Lastly, if utility expenses are combined, they can be put on one line. However, please be consistent with the entries each year. Next slide. Tab 4, AMC 172 proposed cash flow analysis. This is where the completed SRI, scheduled rental income, is useful. The project will enter the anticipated revenues in column A. Again, if there's commercial revenue, you will enter the amounts in column C. Likewise, if there are non-restricted units, then the amount should be entered in column B. Miscellaneous rent revenue should be itemized below, and the amount will auto-populate. On line item 8, the project will include the anticipated vacancy. The current vacancy rate standard is 5%. If there is financial revenue or other revenue, i.e. laundry or tenant charges, these revenues should be entered on column D. Next slide, please. Continue with AMC 172 proposed cash flow analysis. Starting on line 27, this is where the project will enter their mandatory debt services, better known as mortgage payments and HCD 0.42 payments. It is recommended the project confirm their mandatory debts against the regulatory agreement and loan agreements. If there's a ground lease, the project should enter that on line 31. Lastly, mandatory reserve deposits. Again, it's best practice to confirm the required deposit against the regulatory agreements. If there is a proposed negative cash flow, as shown in our example, this would be a big red flag. The project should recheck their entries. Sergio Garcia will go further in details about negative cash flow during his presentation. The completed proposed operating budget forms 170 through 172 and the scheduled rental income should be emailed to amcbranch@hcd.ca.gov. And please CC both your fiscal and your occupancy reps in that email. Next slide, please. That ends the portion of my presentation. But before I go, is there any question?
If anyone has any questions they want to add into the chat, you can type those in.
Hearing none, thank you very much. And please welcome Mary Rice.
Thank you, Jessica, and hello, everyone. I'm Mary Rice, AMC Fiscal Rep with HCD. I will be reviewing some examples of items that are not approved on the AMC 173 Approved Cost of Operations tab. The amounts on this sheet are auto-populated from the information that is input on the AMC 171 Proposed Cost of Operation tab that Jessica just presented. The cells that are shaded in green in this example are the areas that the HCD rep completes and adjusts if necessary. Reasons for the adjustments or other comments are made in the last column. Examples of items not approved are as follows. If a management consultant fee is in the proposed budget, they will be combined with the management fee amount. If this total exceeds the maximum HUD allowable amount, currently at $81 per unit per month, also known as PUPM, the overage will be denied and adjusted out of this account first before the management fee is adjusted. If the management fee exceeds HUD's PUPM, which again, the current maximum is $81, and or if the amount has increased over 5% from the prior fiscal year, the AMC rep will question the increase. In this example, the proposed PUPM was $101.45, and the AMC rep reduced it to meet the maximum required amount of $81. The administrative rent-free unit must mirror what is in the SRI report. If it does not match, the AMC rep will adjust it so that it mirrors the SRI. If bookkeeping fees exceed HUD's PUPM, which the current maximum is $13, the AMC rep will adjust. In this example, the proposed PUPM was $14.49, and the AMC rep reduced it to meet the maximum required amount of $13. Just an important note about this tab and about the bad debt line. Bad debt for the initial operating year should be a maximum of 0.05% of the rent revenue. Other years may vary. Bad debt includes lost revenue for non-payment of rents for occupied units. It does not include vacant rents that were empty between lease-ups. In this example, the miscellaneous admin expenses included $450 for a Christmas party. This is shown toward the bottom of this slide. And the breakdown of the miscellaneous admin expenses as shown in the AMC 171. Line 15 shows that the AMC rep has adjusted the proposed amount from $2,900 to $2,450 in the green shaded cell and annotated that the Christmas party is an ineligible expense. Next slide, please. This slide continues with the rest of the AMC 173 tab. I will discuss some common errors that are found. Recalling Jessica's example of snow removal in Napa County, the example shows that line 30 has been reduced to 0 in the green shaded cell, and a comment for denial in the last column is denied, non-applicable for area. For line 35, real estate taxes, this example shows after the AMC rep researched the status of the welfare exemption on the property with the borrower or sponsor, it was determined that the exemption was granted and a $20,000 decrease was in order. A $2,500 bond fee was included in the breakdown of line 41, miscellaneous taxes, licenses, permits, and insurance. The proposed amount of $3,300 was decreased to $800 on line 41. Later, this $2,500 will be shown being moved to the AMC 175 Approved Cash Flow tab under Financial Expenses. Supportive Services Costs, line 44, for on-site service coordinator salaries and benefits has $64,000 proposed. However, the AMC rep's research found that there was no approved mini plan or supportive services cost form on file. Therefore, the AMC rep decreased this line to 0 and notated the reason in the last column. Next slide, please. Moving on to the AMC 174 HCD Approved Proration of Cost of Operations tab brings the expenses over from the AM 173 tab. It prorates each amount according to the percentage of restricted units versus total units. This slide shows when the restricted and total units are the same and shows a proration percentage of 100%. The number of restricted units versus total units must match the submitted SRI. The next slide shows the proration percentage change from 100% and how it breaks down between restricted and total units when the restricted number of units is changed to 25. Next slide, please. In the case of 25 restricted units out of 46 total units, the percentage of the green shaded proration percentage column changed to 54.35%. The restricted and non-restricted unit columns are broken down into their respective amounts. Next slide, please. This ends my part of the presentation. I'm just wondering if there's any questions in relation to the information that I just covered.
One thing that I'll just add to what Mary said is, please note that the AMC reps are not just denying things that don't appear appropriate line item by line item, but they might just be moving it to another part of the form where it's more appropriate that it's an eligible and approvable expense or revenue line item, but it's in the wrong account code. So it might get changed somewhere. And then once that's returned to the sponsor and asset manager and property manager with the approval, you'll know to use it in the same account code for the subsequent years.
Yep. Okay, so I don't see that there's any other questions in the chat, so I will now turn the presentation over to Sergio Garcia to complete the rest of the budget presentation. Thank you.
Thank you, Mary. Good afternoon and welcome again to HCD's budget training webinar. I'm Sergio Garcia, housing representative with HCD in the AMC Fiscal Unit. We'll be covering tab 7 of the AMC 175 approval of cash flow. Your HCD fiscal rep will compare rent revenue. Line 1 on the slide, line 1, 5120, and tenant assistance payment, line 2, 5121, to the SRI and mirror the amount to the budget. If the SRI has not been approved and at the time of the budget approval, the budget will be based on unverified revenue and a note will be made at the bottom of AMC 175. Vacancy should be around 5%. In this example, you can see on the slide, line 8 and 9, vacancy was adjusted from the proposed 12% to 5%. Line 8 shows the percentage and line 9 shows the actual amount of vacancy loss. The adjustment was made on column B and carries over to column H of the HCD approved budget. When vacancy percentage is higher, the rep will question and make the adjustments necessary to 5%. During this review, during this review process, there will be a conversation with the project and regarding the higher amount proposed of, in this case, 12%. We may ask for additional information why the higher vacancy percentage proposed. For example purposes, we made a 5% adjustment based on such conversation agreement. While making the adjustments that are on column H, HCD approved budget, your HCD fiscal rep uses prior year approved audit and prior year budget to analyze and make such adjustments proposed on tab 3 of the AMC 171 and tab 4 of the AMC 172. The department also uses the project's regulatory agreement, Exhibit C, to approve these amounts. Next slide. Continuing on tab 7 of the AMC 175, line item 28 shows the bond fee was moved from taxes and license to financial expenses. As Mary explained on the AMC 173, bond fee was moved from tab 3, AMC 171, line item 41, taxes and license miscellaneous, to financial expenses on tab 7. AMC 175 has mandatory fee based on the regulatory agreement. Line 34, replacement reserve deposits, column G, shows a proposed amount of $13,800 submitted on tab 4 of the AMC 172 on the proposed operating budget. On the same line, column H shows the corrected amount of $16,000. This amount was corrected based on the project's regulatory agreement, specifically Exhibit C. Line 35 and 37 also show other required reserve annual deposit amounts and are approvable. Line 40, column H, shows $138,083 in positive cash flow for distribution. Line 40 on column G, proposed operating cash flow, shows negative. If a budget with negative cash flow is received, the department will ask for revenue and expense analysis in an effort to eliminate the negative cash flow. This will include an explanation of changes to be implemented by the project, control and reduce cost, improve turnover times, plans of maximizing revenue, and are implementing rent increases. This plan will be requested within 30 days of the budget approval notification. In some cases, depending on the program, budgets showing negative cash flow may require an explanation prior to the approval. Next slide. At the bottom of tab 7, line 40, project cash flow, column H, is shown as a distribution outlined in red. However, HCD will not show distribution on use of cash flow lines 45 to 52 on approved proposed operating budgets. At the bottom of tab 7, a note will state the following: use of cash flow will be determined per the project's regulatory agreement, Exhibit C, at the time of corresponding fiscal year audit reviewed and approved. After complete approval of the proposed operating budget, your AMC fiscal rep will use the approved by on the top left-hand corner of the AMC 173, 174, and 175 and write their name. As Jessica mentioned earlier, sign-in date tab 2 of the AMC 170 in the operating budget named checklist of required items. At this point, approval email will be sent out to the most updated contacts to the project by your fiscal representative. Note, so we may have the current contacts of the project ownership profile, or what we call POP form, is emailed at the time of the budget or annual approvals. Please request a project ownership profile or POP form from your AMC fiscal rep if you do not receive one at this time. I believe someone had asked if there was a distribution on the reps, but this form, you can request this POP form from your AMC fiscal rep, and you can update it so that way we have the correct contacts. That concludes my presentation. Any questions on these slides?
All right, then no questions so far in the chat either. Let's move forward and continuing with Sergio here.
Next tab, please. Operating budget form, tabs 8 and 9. Tabs 8 and 9 on the AMC 180 and AMC 181. These are tabs used at the end of the fiscal year for HCD legacy loan programs. These are some of our older loan programs with the department that do not follow uniform multifamily regulations, or what we call the UMRs. Next slide. Just final reminders that we have presented. Please use the proper HUD charted accounts. Use the miscellaneous revenue and expenses need to be itemized if expenses total more than $1,500. Management fee, 81 PUPM, and bookkeeping fees are $13 PUPM. Follow the 10% year-over-year rule, explaining expenses. This on a case-by-case basis. Supported services and coordinator costs. How to use these supported services cost certification form for projects with 2017 UMRs. When the supported services amount proposed in the operating budget is lower than the amount allowed per the supported services cost form, your AMC fiscal rep will approve the lower amount in the budget. However, if the project's actual expenses increase during the budgeted year, the expense will be allowed up to the maximum set forth in the UMR section 8314E 1 through 4. Next slide. A quick word about reserves. Annual deposits to the replacement reserves are required. Operating reserves must be replenished before any borrow distribution are allowed. Reserve withdrawals require HCD's written approval. For more information, see the administrative notices on the AMC webpage. For more information regarding coasters, pool transition reserves, or any other special reserve accounts, contact your AMC fiscal rep of the project. This concludes my presentation at this point. I'm going to hand it back to our AMC fiscal section chief, Stephen Marshall.
All right, thank you. So we wanted to just reiterate what the POP form was, the property ownership profile. If any of your projects are going through a resyndication or any change in the ownership structure, if a limited partner is exiting the partnership, that sort of thing, please request and then submit an updated POP form. We try to keep our database up to date as much as possible, so that if there are any Listserv announcements or any other large-scale announcements, as well as just direct communications from the staff to the project, we'd like to know who the sponsor contacts are, the asset management and the property management agent contacts are, so that we can always keep everyone in the loop and in the know regarding any questions or information that needs to be information gathered or information shared with you. So you can always contact requesting information at the AMC branch email at the bottom of this slide. And if you do put that in, we had that note in the chat, please do include the name of the project and the contract number. That's how we'll look it up, and we can respond to you as to who your AMC fiscal and AMC occupancy representative is, who to get in touch with, so that you can always be in direct contact with them as needed. If you do want to sign up for the Listserv, we call an e-blast, an email blast, you can go to www.hcd.ca.gov, which is the central HCD website. And as you can see circled in red here at the very top banner on that first page that you land on, it says email sign up, and there is a number of choices when you click on that, and you will be able to choose the topics which you would like to stay informed about. And you can either click general, or in this case, we recommend that you put your name and contact information on the list that's called asset management or asset management and compliance, and you will get anything that is sent out by the AMC branch. We are preparing to send out updated administrative notices to update the policies regarding our replacement reserve and our operating reserves, and the use of those funds, and how to request, and what are eligible or ineligible expenses. So if you're working at a project and helping the property owners submit these request for reserve fund withdrawal forms, if you're working on those forms, you're going to want to know about our updated policy. So it would be a good idea to sign up if you have not yet done so. Sign up for the email blast for asset management and compliance, so that you're made aware and you get copies of these updated policies. The updated policies for the negative points, as previously mentioned, as well as the pooled transition reserve policy. Those all go out through the AMC Listserv. So if you're signed up for that, you'll be sure that you get those announcements. If you're interested in finding out more about the notices of funding availability and things that are on the development side as well, sign up for the multifamily housing list or the general announcement list at this same login where it says email sign up. So unless there's any other questions at this time, if you're able to unmute yourself if you want to speak up or write it into the chat, we'll take any final questions at this point. And if we don't hear any now or see any in the chat in the next few moments, we'll turn it back to Gabriella for AMA to wrap up the webinar. And Gabriella, are you there?
I am. If there's any specific questions that you guys might have in regards to those forms, or if there's anything that's going on in your properties, please feel free to chat those in at this moment. You have multiple people here at your disposal to answer any specific questions you may have. Please feel free to chat them in directly to them, or you can post them. I want to thank everyone for joining us. I want to also thank our speakers. We really appreciate you taking the time to bring this information to our members.
Well, it's been our pleasure. Thank you. I know that this training and some of the other information will be posted, I believe, to the AMA website and the recording. We are always ready and willing to provide any guidance or technical assistance we can to our project owners and operators and property managers. We have great respect for the operations you take on and the jobs you do. So anytime we can offer our help and assistance, please do reach out directly to your AMC staff representatives, and we'd be happy to engage and find answers and give you the help that we can.
Thank you, Stephen, and thank you so much, everyone. This session is ending a little early. We do ask that you maybe take this time, time that you have given back to you, and do some self-care. Try to take a couple minutes to do something else before you head back to work and back to your desk. So thank you again, everyone, for joining us. Thank you, Stephen. Thank you, everyone else, all of our other speakers. We really appreciate it. We appreciate your time. And I hope you all have a wonderful afternoon.
Thanks. Bye-bye, everybody.
Thank you.
Thank you.